Engine's having trouble. Now I'm sailing through a crowded mooring field, trying to get deep in so I can either drop the anchor or pick up a mooring. It's bad fuel. Oh boy. That was exciting and not in a fun way. Got a pretty good cut from a barnacle on the mooring line. Yeah, I rinsed it out so I wouldn't get an infection. That was my second attempt at leaving this anchorage this morning. The first attempt, I was going, the engine was kind of revving a little bit, which I thought was weird, but I was already committed to the channel. Pretty tight channel. I was like, damn it. Got in the middle of the channel, tightest spot of course, and white smoke starts coming out the exhaust. The engine starts bogging. So I threw it in neutral, got the head sail out. There was a little bit of morning breeze, just a slight, like 3 knots or something, 4 knots maybe. Just enough to hold the shape of the sail. And then I was like, you know what, like I need to like stay in this protection. So I came about really hard, saw if I could start the engine. The engine started back up and I was able to drive back in without it dying again. Picked up a mooring ball and I checked the fuel filter and drained off like that much water. So all this white down here is water and this is like diesel, which is Indonesian diesel. This is the first time I've had a problem with it. It's funny too, because I just paid, I don't know, well the last 2 times I got diesel, I paid like $5.30 US a gallon. People in California were like, well, that's just California prices. I'm like, you're not getting contaminated fuel for $5.30 a gallon in California. And this is like, I polished all this fuel. Like I ran it through a raker, and everything. But there's a certain amount of water that you can't get out doing that unless you polish it multiple times and everything. So after I drained off the nastiness from the raker, and I drained it like a week ago. So I guess this is something I have to do every week now. Drained off the nastiness, started the engine, ran it at idle for a long time. It didn't do the rev up, there was no smoke or anything, and I was like, okay, let's try to get back out, get out of here. And that's where I made the mistake. I should have just changed the filter. Like, that filter now had like water sitting in it, so obviously it's all gummed up. I have plenty of filters, so that was me not thinking. Which won't happen again, that's for sure. So I get going, no smoke, no weird like racing of the engine. Motor through the tight mooring field. I get back to the same spot, right in the channel, and it starts bogging down. Maybe it's fighting a current, and so when it's under load is when it has trouble. But sure enough, engine dies right in the middle of the channel. Right as it's starting to die, I came about really hard so that I was like at least turned around. I got pretty close to the shallows and got the headsail out, and then sailed my way back into the mooring field, as you saw in the video. And then when I was getting close to this one big boat and the wind was getting very light, I ran down, started the engine, and it ran long enough to get me to the mooring ball, thankfully. So I won't be making another escape Bali attempt today. I'm gonna change that fuel filter and see how it goes from there. Good morning from the bay whose name I always forget how to pronounce. Yesterday, after I got all settled, let the engine cool down a bit, I changed the fuel filter, cleaned out the bowl, which had some gunk in the bottom of it, the water separator bowl, and filled up the new filter with diesel. Put that little ring of diesel around the gaskets, put it back on. I ran the engine for a long time. Well, then I bled the system. While I was bleeding the system, I found that the nut on the secondary fuel filter had obviously backed off just a bit. There were like little bubbles. I had everything cleaned off, I had everything, all the covers off, so I had really good light on it. And when I was bleeding the engine, I could see little bitty bubbles at that connection where the pipe goes to the lifter pump. And I was like, and I've been looking for like an air leak for quite a while, and that has to be, well, hopefully, that's where the air leak was. So I tightened that down. I think that's why the engine was racing yesterday. So there was a combination of silliness happening yesterday. It rained the whole day yesterday. After that, it started raining and never stopped until I went to bed. Now it's beautiful out. Not too overcast like it has been. It's first light right now. And we're gonna attempt to get underway again. So let's see how it goes. We have a 28 nautical mile passage today to Java. All right, well, we made it out. Engine sounds good, nice and strong. No racing, no fluctuating, no bogging down. Hopefully that was the fix. Approaching tonight's anchorage, winds are probably blowing 10 knots. Sea state that comes with that. There's a catamaran anchored that was in the last spot we were in, so that gives me a good sort of reference point to where we want to be. Get in and get the hook dropped. Oh boy, exciting. Anchored. We're anchored in 20 feet of water. We have 5 scope out. All set. super gnarly squall. Gnarly. We're in a shipping lane. Trying to not hit buoys, but I can't see them. Big thunder and lightning. Luckily no traffic. But some weird fish farms. I think the blast of wind will be done in a minute, but we'll see. I have one reef in the main, but I have the main paid all the way out right now. Crazy. We're in crazy shallow water too. I can't see anything either. I have to put the engine in neutral. We're still doing 6.7 knots. .9 knots, but we're in the channel. Probably 35 knots of wind. Oh, big lightning. Gnarly. Hope we don't have a lightning strike. Grateful for my little Ray Marine auto tiller. He's doing a good job. Keeping us on course. So afraid we're going to hit one of these channel buoys. Just saw that buoy. Did a really shoddy reef on the third reef. Crazy. I gotta take the main all the way down. A little too silly. crazy fish structure like right in the middle of the channel. That's the shit I'm worried about. It's not on the charts, obviously. We could have easily hit that. Spooky. Such a bummer. There's one on this side too, but I can barely see it. But I think we're gonna miss it. I think I need to get my snorkel goggles out. So messed up. Coming up to a bridge. Bummer. It says we're 3 miles away though, so maybe it'll be gone by then. This is like extra sketchy in this enclosed body of water with hazards everywhere, because like at sea you would just like heave to and ride it out, but in a tight area where like the water's 10 feet deep, like right there where those things were, it's 3 feet deep in a shoal right next to us. So just got to keep going, hope that the channel's clear. I mean, there's big ships that come through here. Spooky. You can't see anything though because the rain's so dense. There's a delicate little swallow flying in this storm. Have no problems. He's just making his way in the storm. Kind of a beautiful method. Boom, we did it. Brutal. We got anchored. We're anchored in about 30 feet of water. We have 4-scope out. My intended anchorage was another, I don't even know, mile or two up through all these ships. There's like probably 50 big ships anchored in here. But as I was approaching, I saw my friends on China Cat Sunflower anchored right before all the chaos. And so I looked on AIS and saw where they were, and I was like, awesome. So I drove straight over and anchored near to them. And boy, they were a sight for sore eyes. Super stoked to see them anchored there. Made my life a lot easier. And I got in before dark. That is fantastic. Oh boy, I just had an exciting first experience. I got over this anchorage, tons of room, big wide open space. It's a noted anchorage on no foreign land, and I think on maybe on Zulu and on avionics. Dropped the hook, like, I don't know, 20 feet of water or something. And all's good. Plenty of room for everybody. And skies get dark, as they do here this time of year. Big squall hits. I'm down below. Chill, no problem. Just made lunch. And a pretty substantial wind and everything. Kind of like, not as bad as what I had the other day when I was underway, but pretty gnarly. Wind and rain. And I see this like giant barge that had been pretty far away from me seemed to be swinging pretty close to me. And I saw a bunch of dudes. There's a tug attached to it, and there's dudes on the tug watching me. So I checked. I wasn't dragging. I wasn't moving at all. We are being held by the current. They're spinning. I'm watching them. They weren't that close. I wasn't that worried about it. That wave of the squall passed. It got mellow. I looked out. Everything seemed chill. They kind of went back to their spot. Another big blast happens. Boom! And like, very minimal viz. I look out, and they're like right on top of me. And I was like, holy shit. So I grabbed my rangefinder, and it said they were like 20 meters away, which was very alarming. So I ran outside and paid out a ton more chain, hoping that would give me distance away from them. Well, the problem was they were being blown, and I believe they were dragging because they were nowhere near that. Even with their radius, they shouldn't have been anywhere near me where I anchored originally in relation to where they were. So I'm sure they drug. So I paid out more chain, thinking, okay, well, I'm going to get some distance from them. And it started putting me closer to them because I was still in the current and they were being moved by the wind. So I'm like actually decreasing the space between us. And I was like, holy shit, like, never occurred to me that was possible. And then I was like, what if they're over my anchor? You know, what do I do? So then I was like, what if they're over my anchor? Like, am I going to have to spill my ground tackle? And again, it's like still the squall's happening. So I run back and start the motor and run forward and start hauling up by hand. The wind dies off and they're still sitting in the same spot. And but at least the squall kind of stopped. Still raining slightly, but no wind. So I'm hauling it by hand, like 200 feet of chain at this point, and fighting the current. And by the time I got to the hook, they were 60 feet away from me. 2 boat lengths. I'm so lucky they weren't over the anchor. So I got the hook up. I motored over here to a new spot and dropped the hook. But now I'm kind of like between them. There's another big ship, and then like a fence, like a fish stake fence thing. So I'm kind of triangulated right in the middle of those 3 obstacles. So I'm glad it happened in daylight and not at night. Usually that stuff happens at night, and I wouldn't have known it. I would say it's good that it was like at least there are dudes on the tug, but they seemed unalarmed. Wouldn't have done anything to them. It would have just destroyed my boat. But I just wanted to share with you guys that I thought I could just pay out more chain and safely get away from them. And in this unique instance, that wasn't the case. And I would have never thought that that would have happened. So I thought I would share that experience with you. Oh, now it's time to finish my tea and try to wind down. There's like this crazy long fish fence. I'm trying to go through a gap in it. Hopefully there's no stakes under the ground or underwater there. I can't go around the end because it's too close to these shoals. And the other end is like way far out. Check it out. Coffee first. I'm anchored in a channel, very well protected channel between Java and this island, who I always forget the name, Madeira or something like that, I can't remember. Yesterday I had a very brutal day. I've been trying to chip my way up the Java coast so I could get a good wind angle to try to sail to Borneo. The monsoons switched December 1st, like a light switch came on, and the northwest monsoon just came in full force, which means there's like winds on the nose all the way to Singapore and Malaysia. So I've been trying to hop my way up as best I can. Day before yesterday, I'd made a really nice, easy passage of 50 miles to this anchorage. It was an open roadstead. Like, there's no protected anchorages on Java, the north coast of Java. Open roadstead, everything was calm. I didn't get much sleep because it was pretty bucky, but it wasn't dangerous or anything, and it was very, very mild conditions. So yesterday morning when I woke up, I hauled up at 4:30, headed out. Now, I had been in a really big squall entering this channel, I don't know, 4 days ago. And my little auto tiller, even though I had it's supposed to be waterproof, I had like a garbage bag over it and everything sealed up as best I could because they're not really waterproof. That thing got me to my anchorage, thankfully, during this really gnarly squall. But it was full of water by the time I got anchored, like, and didn't work again. So I took it apart, tried to dry it out, didn't work. So I wired up my spare, my last one, and I put new belts on both of those that I had just gotten in when I was in Bali. I had received those from my little brother in the States. So the spare yesterday morning, get going, it lasted about an hour and died. And then, I don't know, maybe an hour after that, I got hit by this gnarly squall yesterday. 20, 25 knots of wind, but total sort of like zero viz because there was so much rain, so I couldn't see any of the fads or the fish stakes. I'm hand steering because I didn't have the paddle on for the hydrovane. There's been no wind for sailing for 1,500 miles, so I didn't have that on, and I didn't dare try to put it on during the blow. So I'm just hand steering through this, kind of like drifting off a bit as much as I felt was safe. That thing finally passes, and I got back to it, and with like all sail up, there was some wind, but all sail up, the motor going, I was battling against a current, like I was doing like 2.5, 3 knots for hours and hours and hours. And it just kept coming. I just couldn't make any progress, and there was like tons of ships and stuff. And I got hit by several more squalls after that. And I only made it 13 miles before I was like, you know what? Like, without having to hand steer solo, this is just dangerous. And the problem is like, there's nowhere to hide. It's not like I could have just ducked into an anchorage and like rode out the storm. It was all a lee shore. It was all dangerous along the coast. Even the place I'd stayed in the night before, there was just no protection anywhere. So I called it, turned around, and started heading back, which I made great speed once I turned around. And then between one of the squalls, I put the hydrovane paddle on so that when there was wind that was usable, I was able to use the hydrovane during increments of yesterday's sail. But when the most of the rain was happening, there was no wind and just massive swells. So I had to hand steer. I think yesterday's passage was 17.5 hours. I went 13 miles forward and 64 miles retreating because there was nowhere to go that was safe. After that, after the autopilots broke yesterday and I turned around, I realized there's just no safe way for me to reach Malaysia this year. Like, I'm a firm believer in good seamanship, and sometimes like the right call is not what you want, but it's the right call. I'm not a fan of Indonesia, so the idea of getting stuck here for another season is pretty frustrating, but it comes down to the safety of the ship and my life. Obviously the call is you do what you gotta do. So right now I'm gonna just sit here for a couple days and rest. I'm gonna probably move to a different anchorage in the channel that I stayed at when I first got here by this village because I need to get water and some diesel. I think what I'm gonna do is go back 250 miles to Marina del Rey Marina that I was staying at when Rhonda left. Put the boat there. So like this monsoon, the wet season lasts until about April, March or April. I think that's the transition months. So it'll be non-stop storms until then. So I think I'll go back put Tritea at Marina del Rey, either on a mooring or on the dock. And then I'll probably just go to Bali for like 2 months and rent a room somewhere. It's really affordable. You can get a hotel room there for a month for like $200, which is insane for a month. Or find some little guest house or something and just kind of rest. I have tons of editing to do. I have tons of writing I need to do. I also have just been surviving, so I gotta like fully sort of emotionally process the end of mine and Rhonda's relationship. And I'm tired. I've done, I don't know, 5,500 nautical miles or something this year so far. Maybe more than that. I haven't done the latest numbers. But it's been a long, hard year. Now, a lot of people online who don't understand how cruising works or have never been cruising thought that I was pushing insanely hard and going too far. I know like 5 boats that left New Zealand at the beginning of the year and are in Malaysia. Like, the program I ran this year was not insane. The big issue with why I missed the season to be able to get safely up to Malaysia in the Malacca Strait was because I had to have the top end of the engine rebuilt in Australia. So that slowed us down by like 6 weeks. And then we got held up at Thursday Island waiting for all of my important documents through the post office for 3 weeks. So we were there almost a month. So there's 2.5 months delay. So it's just that sort of stuff happens sometimes. Also, Tritea's a small boat, so she doesn't have as big of an engine. So motoring, which is what you do in Indonesia, she only motors at like 4 knots. So you can't really, not much you can do about that. So it's not like I made some bad call early on and tried to push like an unattainable goal. It's not the case. It's just sometimes that's how the cards fall. You got to be flexible. I was pretty upset yesterday when I realized like that was the right thing to do, because like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Indonesia. As a cruising ground goes, it's terrible. It's like very little wind, super deep anchorages. Yeah, I feel like the majority of interactions I've had with all the people here is they want money from me. They either want to sell me something, they want me to hire them, or they'll just put their hand out and say, money, money, money. I've had that happen 30 times. From children to adults. People come up in boats, put their hand out, money, money, money. So it feels like every interaction I've had with people, almost every interaction I've had, there's some kind of like incentive financially for them to be like nice, or so that's like it gets exhausting. Finding diesel that's clean is difficult here. Finding water is really tricky. As a cruising ground goes, Indonesia is like very, very difficult with not a lot of like payoffs. If you're a surfer, then I could understand it, because there's supposed to be tons of good surf. Or if you scuba dive and you were just like popping your way through, but you don't need a sailboat to do that. It's not even sailing, it's like you're motorboating for thousands of miles. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of Indo, so I'm bummed that I have to spend like 3 or 4 months downtime here, but I gotta get away from the boat and like I said, go to Bali, or maybe go do some travel somewhere else or something. I gotta reset mentally. And then I guess when the season comes, that's the thing, is I can't get up to Malaysia during the southeast monsoon, because that's when it's the wet season up there. So then I'll have to just like slowly crawl my way through Indo, working out the visa situation as I go. I think I have 30 days left on my current visa, so I'll have to fly out at some point to reset that. But it is what it is. We can't control everything. Do what you can do, make the best of it. Anyway, this is a long-winded explanation for y'all. A little wakey. It's like, what day is it? December 15th now, so 10 days till Christmas. I don't know if I probably won't even be there by Christmas. Hopefully I'll be back to Bali by Christmas, at least somewhere nice. But that's the plan. And I appreciate your support. Thanks for sticking by me through all this stuff. And I hope you're liking the adventure videos. And got lots more cool stuff to show you.